Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Bleacher Boys. You got your boy Ken and your boy Ollie with you today. Isaac is unfortunately on medical leave. He got a little bit too went a little bit too hard last night. It was Friday, and unfortunately, he is going to be comatose for this particular episode. He's recovering. We all send out our thoughts and prayers to our boy Springer.
Get better soon.
We have a lot to talk about today. We just finished up awards week. We're now heading into late November. Awards week is past. We're looking at the bulk of the offseason in front of us. Ken and I are going to talk today about the award winners, the seasons they had, the teams they played for, the implications of the awards, whether they were deserved. And also, we're going to look a little bit toward the future and talk a bit about the shape of the offseason, the shape of next season as well. But to begin with, Ken.
Yes?
I would love if you could briefly talk to us a little bit about
what can I talk about for you, Ollie?
What is going on with your New York Yankees very briefly, because there's been a lot of talk on the airwaves about the New York Yankees, and the word crisis keeps coming up. The word doom keeps coming up. The vocabulary surrounding this team right now is extraordinarily negative.
Okay.
And one might say really condemnatory right now. So I would love to just have a little bit of dialogue about your team right now as you're looking forward, because that's what, the people want to hear about the Yankees, and you know about the Yankees. So talk about it.
So, okay, first of all, before I dive into the Yankees, I just want to say, Ollie, the way he just introduced this show, this episode, he's coming for Isaac's job. Isaac on his bed, probably listening to this right now. Better watch out, buddy. Ollie just absolutely perfect, immaculate introduction to what an episode to be had in front of us. First of all, the Yankees, man. We got to talk a little bit about it. I know I don't have my partner in crime to talk about the Yankees, Isaac Springer, but yeah, it's been a rough 2 weeks. It shouldn't be like this time between the World Series and free agents starting to sign. That shouldn't be a time where the Yankees are, in the airwaves in a bad sense. Like, this isn't the time to be making headlines. I don't know what Cashman's at the front of all of this talk. I know there's some good news within the Yankee land that a lot of Yankee fans have started to believe that Soto will be a Yankee. That's a dangerous place to live, because when that doesn't happen, which most likely it won't, it's a I don't know, a couple months of depression for us Yankee fans if that doesn't happen. But
what are the dangers of very high expectations? What are those dangers?
What are the dangers that it doesn't happen?
Of high expectations.
Of high expectations.
As to that, what's the danger to the franchise?
What's the danger to the franchise is that we're probably going to be another fifth place team next year, which that doesn't do well in New York. We're not used to this.
Right. There's no chance Cashman survives that, I would think.
He does have the best job security in the world right now.
And how is that the case?
You see, I could go in the weeds with this. I don't know Cashman and Steinbrenner's relationship too well. There's rumors going around that their relationship hasn't been as good as it has in the past, and Judge now is more of in that seat of decision making. Apparently, Judge was the guy who voiced his opinion on Anthony Volpe starting at short at the beginning of the year. Judge and Cashman couldn't get talks going when Judge was going through his free agency, and Howe was the one that called him from Italy to make that deal happen. Who knows? It seems interesting that Howe would bring up Judge's name when talking about the offseason plans and not Cashman's. I don't know what's happening.
It almost resembles the composition of a football team to me right now, because in football what we see is the most prominent players assume these organizational roles. Famously, that's how Brady served when he was with the Patriots. He had a lot of decision-making and sway in personnel moves. That's not normally the case in baseball. But it sounds to me like, based on what you're saying, Judge's stature, if you forgive my pun, his stature with the team is such that he can, in fact, influence major personnel decisions just by expressing his opinion to Boone or Cashman. Is that true?
I can't tell you if it's true or not, but it seems that way. There's a lot of, there's smoke. There's fire where there's smoke. It seems like there's more talk about Judge, and it's not just football. You go to basketball, the joke is GM. LeBron James making decisions for his teams and influencing who they get in personnel. So who knows? Maybe we're trending in that direction with baseball. Wherever Shohei goes, you might think that Shohei might have a lot of say in what people want. Trout, like these guys, face with the franchise guys for a long time. They might start having influence on team personnel.
Shohei is by far the most important example of what that could be, what that could look like. He lands with a team, and if he continues to have the 10 WAR seasons he's been having, I could see the entire front office of the Dodgers, for example, just answering at his beck and call. Like he says, you know, I want to trade for Jack Leiter if he's good in a couple of years, and then Jack Leiter against the Dodgers. Like that's the kind of thing that could happen because it's so rare that we've seen one person have this much impact on a team in the past.
And this could be a
But anyway,
one last thing. This could be a negotiation tactic to get Shohei Ohtani. It could be Atlanta Braves coming over. Yo, Shohei, we will give you a lot of say in what we do here as a team. Or maybe not the Braves because they're already good, but if you're an upcoming team like the Chicago Cubs, like we'll give you a lot of say. You'll be the captain. I don't know if they'll go to the 10% of ownership or something like that, but that's also floating around. But who knows? Like this could be something that lures Shohei to a club.
I think it could. That's so hard to pass up. I mean, if I'm Shohei, he's not an egotistical guy, but still the temptation of that saying, wow, I can have a voice in the people that are going to surround me on this team. Who wouldn't say no to that? Who wouldn't say no to that?
Yeah, it's historic. We'll keep an eye on it.
But well said. I appreciate your input, Ken. Now let's go ahead and move on to our discussion of the Major League Rookie of the Year winners this year. As you know already, the two winners were Gunnar Henderson in the AL and Corbin Carroll in the National League, both winning by a unanimous vote, which happens a lot with these Rookie of the Years. A unanimous vote, both players superlative, standing far above their rookie class. While it's true both had some time in 2022 to have a cup of coffee in the big leagues, they both blew us away this season. Corbin Carroll, a 5.4 wins above replacement. He recorded 54 stolen bases, led the league in triples with a 10, 134 OPS plus. In the AL, Gunnar Henderson, 28 home runs, 125 OPS plus, 150 games played. Both of them took on a tremendous workload. These guys, just for the record, they are younger than both Ken and I, which is kind of amazing. Henderson's only 22. Corbin's also 22. These are younger than us, and these guys are sitting up for 150 games in the big leagues. Ken, I assume that you think these picks are fair and the voting was correct.
Mm-hmm.
But I would still love to hear whether this was a surprise for you at all. Did you picture both these guys being strong candidates coming in? Did you see this coming? Unanimous win for Rookie of the Year?
Before the season started, me and Isaac actually did an episode on predicting all these awards. Isaac actually predicted Gunnar Henderson correct, so it sucks that he can't be here to gloat and walk his little championship run here. But Gunnar Henderson doesn't surprise me. He had a terrific season, top 5 in WAR in the AL. My surprise is Tanner Bibby coming in at second, Tristan Cassis coming in at third. These guys, the hype was around Yoshida, Volpe. Gunnar was obviously up there, but the AL, there are some surprising names within the vote. The top spot there doesn't surprise me too much. Corbin Carroll, obviously, he was a stud. I wish I had him in fantasy. Someone else had him. Ollie Tran. Senga, I was rooting for him. I'm glad he got the second place finish there. James Outman. There's some really interesting names that you wouldn't think. The casual fan, Ellie De La Cruz is hot. Yuri Perez, maybe even Spencer Shearer, Matt McClain with the first half he had. But
yes, that's right.
There are some names I wanted to shout out. But Corbin Carroll and Gunnar Henderson were clearly the favorites here.
And both helping to carry their teams, their young, talented, underrated teams into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. The Orioles winning a division title in the AL East. Absolutely no one saw that coming. And the Diamondbacks capturing that new third wild card, making it all the way to the World Series. Shout out to Jake Storiali of Talking Baseball for picking up that one. So clearly Rookie of the Year. I mean, this is an award that has not historically been a great predictor of future success for players. I can name many, many Rookie of the Year winners who were absolute busts afterwards. Sidney Crosby with the Athletics, famous one. Huston Street, bit of a bust with the Athletics as well. Chris Coghlan, famous Marlins Rookie of the Year, who didn't really amount to much. But on the other hand, you also have rookies who win the award and then go on to have rich and incredible careers. Corey Seager, Cody Bellinger, Ohtani, recent examples of that.
Aaron Judge, you just didn't mention. Yeah, go on.
Yes, who almost won an MVP in his first season, losing out to Jose Altuve.
Should have had it.
Yeah, Judge, another example of someone who... And Stanton was not a Rookie of the Year winner.
No.
Giancarlo Stanton was not a Rookie of the Year winner, as I recall. No, he was... I guess he was probably not quite there at the level in 2008 when he first came in. But either way, rookie of the year, it's one of these. It's been around since '47. Actually, it was around before the Cy Young, which is interesting. Most people don't realize that.
I didn't realize
And
that. Damn.
it's the only award that, of course, you can't win multiple times. It's the one benefit rookie of the year that does give us new people to talk about every season because you can't be a rookie a couple years in a row. But either way, we have a lot of young talent in the league next year. So next year's rookie of the year conversation will promise to be just as interesting. I think for the Red Sox side, Marcelo Mayer is a very strong candidate already. When Trevor Story inevitably breaks his wrist again.
Damn.
So hopefully that's a
Friendly
conversation we
fire.
have about 12 months from now. That was the State of Rookie of the Year. The next award we're going to discuss is the Manager of the Year. Now, once again, we're going to go back to the Orioles because it was their skipper, Brandon Hyde, he of the permanently unshaven goatee, who worked his way into this conversation. Now, what's interesting about this for me is that my perception of Hyde was that he was something of a vilified manager for several years prior to this award.
Interesting.
And that may be just my perception. Based on what I was seeing in the YouTube circles and the John Boy circles, Hyde was consistently portrayed as a bit of a simpleton, a bit of a bumbling, loudmouthed fool, is how I saw it portrayed. But I don't think that's accurate to how he actually manages. And I don't know much about the day-to-day, the vibes in the Baltimore clubhouse, but obviously the people doing the research into the voting for this award are giving Hyde a lot of credit. Do you know much about what the sense of his impact has been on the culture of the team, especially going from miserable last place finishes a couple years ago to a division title this year?
I really don't know too much. I've only seen videos of him, like the videos that go around of him giving the speech after they clinch the playoffs, clinch the second round, whatnot. He seems like a nice guy. I'm just so happy for him that he got this award because of the long journey it took for him to get this Baltimore Oriole team even treading water and then now to a first place in the AL. Like, this is exciting for Brandon Hyde. And, people don't care too much about Manager of the Year awards, but I'm happy for Brandon Hyde.
I'm happy for him as well. He's not a flashy guy. He's definitely not a Gabe Kapler type.
No.
He's no way a Kapler, not even a Boone type, really. He is not a flashy dude. I think he is willing to curse. He's willing to be very down to earth. He's willing to does not put himself above other people in the organization.
He's
also very combative. But yeah,
if we were to categorize managers, would Brandon Hyde go on the same boat as a Phil Nevin?
Yes, I think he would. But Phil Nevin at his best, not Phil Nevin as he has been as a manager. Hyde could be what Phil Nevin would have.
Just like a personality standpoint.
Yes, as a personality and the look. There's something. There have been managers who've fallen into the sort of wisecracking, snarky side. Going back to Lasorda in the old days, to your Walt Weisses, your Bud Black of the Rockies, your Franconas. Those are the wisecracking sense of humor managers. Then there are your boring, your staid, your let the players play managers. A famous example of that was Walter Alston with the Dodgers, who managed them for many years in the 70s. Was a very hands-off manager style. John Farrell of the Red Sox was that kind of manager. And I think that, well, I don't know much about Joe Torre, but some sense is that he was a let the players play kind of guy. Definitely fearsome in his way, but there are managers. Every type of manager has a certain kind of character, and it is important to recognize that. But you also have these days we've seen a new class of manager, which is the new age, nerdy, young, analytical type, which is of course the Kevin Cash prototype, the guys who will pull their stars in the sixth inning and be really awkward with the media and spend more time looking at computers than baseballs. These are your Mike Matheny's, your Cashes, arguably your Alex Cora's as well. I would have to admit.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of brings us neatly to our next Manager of the Year winner, Skip Schumacher in the National League, who I would say probably falls more in that category I just described. This is a very modern manager. This is a analytics-driven team. This is a data-driven team, which makes sense because they're also a low-budget team. And I, for one, even though the Marlins arguably did not deserve to be a playoff team, they had a highly negative run differential. Their Pythagorean win-loss record was just 75 and 87. In most years, this would probably be a fourth or fifth place team. So there was certainly some luck involved. I do want to give Skip Schumacher a lot of credit with how he managed his pitching staff this year. He had to work around injuries. He had to work around Sandy Alcantara, taking a major step back from last season. But he was able to cobble together a really effective starting pitching staff from guys like Yuri Perez, Braxton Garrett, Luzardo, and a really high quality bullpen as well that carried them through the season with pretty much no offense at all. So this is one of those manager of the year picks where I think it was genuinely deserved. I think Schumacher's role on this team is measurably significant. He was not working with a lot of elite talent, I don't think. You have Gene Segura starting 85 games for them at third base. You're working with guys like Garrett Cooper, Garrett Hampson, Jacob Stallings taking a lot of playing time. And if you can turn a team like that into a playoff team, you do deserve a lot of credit, especially because Sandy Alcantara did not have nearly the year he had last season. So please talk to me a bit about Skip Schumacher, about this Marlins team, what your impression of it was.
Yeah, my outlook on the Marlins echoes what you just mentioned. I just want to zoom out a little bit here. How do these reporters or the voters of the awards really like have a sense of who to vote for in the manager? I'm looking at the top 5 of this year. Schumacher obviously won, but he only had 8 first place votes. If you look at the number 3 candidate here, Brian Snicker, he also had 8 first place votes. I don't know, like, what's the criteria or what impacts manager voting? Like, I know there's 2, I think 2 or 1 reporter from each team that the beat from every team, but they're not around these guys 24/7. I don't. Is it just a feel sense kind of thing?
This is a fascinating question because unlike with player awards, we don't have statistics to rely on. Any of us could theoretically just vote for players just by looking at their stats all day and watching their games. You can't do the same thing with a manager. Yes, you can look at ejections and challenges, won and lost, whatever it is. You can look at the record. But when you vote for manager of the year, you have to rely on the je ne sais quoi. You have to rely on the sort of unspoken, subtler elements of baseball, the management of personality, communication. And I do think the reporters who vote for these awards have a strong sense of how the culture of clubhouses, because I think that's what they talk about. And the reporters that I've spoken to, remember in my time when I worked for the Cape Cod Baseball League, there was a strong sense that the reporters are always in communication with each other. They're gossiping. The rumor mill about teams is always spreading. It's just what they talk about. It's their life. So I do think reporters have a strong sense of the culture within every clubhouse in the league. And so I think that when they're voting for a manager, they're not doing it just based on arbitrary, preferences, teams they like, guys they like. I think it actually has a lot to do with how a manager communicates with his team and runs his clubhouse.
Right. Like from me, like a third person view, I would I would, the facts, not the facts, the things that would, impact what I would think of a manager is how was the team projected to play that year in 2023 coming in before the season, and then how did they outperform those projections? If you look at these
exactly.
recent winners, it's guys that their team wasn't supposed to be good before the season. You open the book and they're pretty good. And if you go by that theory, I know playoffs don't count, but Torey Lovello, no one had Diamondbacks. I don't know. Or if you have a historic season, that I feel like those are the 2 ways you win a manager of the year. Historically good.
And I do think the Orioles were historically good this year relative to how they've been in the past. I think this was a historically good season because of their competition and because of what they achieved. Really solid run differential, elite pitching staff and elite offense and elite defense. I think this was a historic year for the Baltimore franchise, at least. Maybe not for all baseball teams ever, but for Baltimore, certainly. And that matters too. They're looking at like you said, they're looking at what a team is projected to do and what it actually does. Expectations versus reality. We keep talking about expectations versus what happens. This is a case of voting for the difference between expectations and outcome.
Right. All right. Are we getting to the juicy stuff?
Yeah. That's going to bring us pretty neatly to the 2 big awards. They're the ones everyone knows and remembers. First, we'll start with the award for the finest pitcher in each league, the Cy Young, awarded to the great, rest in peace, the great Denton True Young, winner of 511 games. I'm so happy the award is still named after him. People talk about changing everything, like, oh, we should call it the Randy Johnson or the Greg Maddux Award or whatever it is. But I'm glad that it's still Cy Young because it's
so iconic now.
And he is the all-time leader in innings pitched, complete games, wins. He deserves it. It was a different time. He was only throwing 82 miles an hour, but still, the guy has earned it. In the American League, we have. I wish I should let you announce it, but I'll just say it. It was Gerrit Cole of the New York Yankees, the elite right-hander,
It's
and
my
the
king.
NL it was Padres lefty Blake Snell. Cole, of course, won unanimously. Snell had 29 to 30 votes. He missed one vote to Zach Gallen of the Diamondbacks. But basically, these are two pretty much unanimous winners. There wasn't that much controversy about them. What's very interesting about the National League vote, of course, is that Blake Snell won while leading the major leagues in walks allowed. He allowed 99 walks this year. That's 5.2 per 9 innings. That's a pretty ludicrous number for a Cy Young winner. But, to his credit, he balanced around all his base runners and pitched amazingly well with runners on base. He got the job done, allowed very few hits. He managed big innings. It doesn't bode well for his future success. I think that's really not a good sign for year-to-year success, walking 5 guys per 9 innings. There isn't a lot of evidence of that unless you're Nolan Ryan. So interesting choice. The interesting situation to see with Blake Snell. He's obviously a free agent again. He's going to command a large contract, I think, either way, regardless of how he did with the walks. But, that's Blake Snell. Let's talk about Gerrit Cole because that's your boy. That is what
That's my
you're
boy.
into. I know you have watched this season the whole year. What happened this year with him? This is the year he finally got to that peak. Why was this the year that Cole made it happen?
As obviously, I love Gerrit Cole. I watched every single start. I think it does have something to do with his competition. The competition wasn't as good. Like if you look at some of his second place finishes, those seasons, even I would admit, were better than this season. But with that aside, Gerrit Cole really put it together. He attacked his weakness in the offseason, it seems like, because his home run numbers were the talk of town coming into the season. That he can't. As Yankee fans, me and Isaac would shiver in our boots when the bottom of the lineup came up because Gerrit Cole would just throw in that 99 fastball. It's a really good pitch, but when they know it's coming, these are major league hitters. They can hit it out, and
You're absolutely right.
He would get ambushed on his fastballs from time to time, and he really cut down on his home run totals, and I think that's what lowered his ERA. He kind of he went back to that cutter that he struggled in 2021 or 2022 with and got more first pitch, second pitch, third pitch outs that reduces pitch count, that allowed him to pitch more innings, second most innings in his career this year. And although it did lower his strikeout totals, I don't think that matters too much. If you're, that's always the question amongst pitchers and guys who love pitching like me and Ollie, is that would you like to sacrifice strikeouts for more outs, more in play outs? So Gerrit Cole kind of took that. He really had an outstanding year. It's amazing. And someone predicted it. I will like to raise my hand and say that I got this absolutely nailed it on the head. Before the season, me and Ollie have a famous show called the Top 10 Pitchers of Both Leagues. That's the world famous. And I ranked him second in the American League this year. Ollie had him eighth, I believe. And my reasoning was that he's still one of the best pitchers. There's a lot of disrespect. There's a whole video on that if you want to go check that out still. It's an interesting video. And I said he would have 30 first place votes, and Ollie called me a lunatic. So I'll clip that in here if you guys want to see it. Lock that bet in. Hail Cy Young, Gerrit Cole.
Yeah. I want the best for you. And
stop trying to act all casual and calm.
I know.
You're man. You're trying to
trending in the wrong direction. That is just the numerical reality of this.
Numerical reality is that he's going to have 30 first place Cy Young votes by the end of the year.
Yes.
That's the numerical value. Thank you. Ollie, anything to say about that?
I do have a lot to say, and you're not wrong about it. Let me just say he's correct about everything he's saying. There's no factual inaccuracies there. I did say those words, but I do want to say that, like Ken said, the competition for Cole this year was extraordinarily weak. This was a extraordinarily weak year for starting pitching. The rule changes in baseball have a lot to do with that, which does make it all the more impressive that Cole was able to improve so dramatically on 2022 with this season, because the conditions for pitching were the worst they have been in years. And if you just look at the other candidates for voting, there was very little strong competition for Cole this year, especially compared to last year. It was basically going to be him. It was basically going to be Cole or Sonny Gray. And to Gray's credit, there wasn't much context there. Cole had like 80 more innings pitched or something. So And let's look at the numbers here. 165 ERA plus. That's elite. Probably wouldn't win in a different year. Verlander's was 217 last season. Like you said, he cut his strikeouts way down, but didn't sacrifice any runs for that. He did run prevention with lower strikeouts still worked out. Maybe his defense was better around him. I'm not sure. We'll look at the numbers on that. His defense was better.
Eye test tells me. Yeah.
Eye test tells you it was. His fielding independent pitching was about the same, only about 30-point difference, so not too much adjustment there. He did lower his whip, lower his hits per 9 innings, and walk fewer batters. His pitch selection, though, pretty similar. I was looking at the numbers here. He brought up his cutter usage a tiny bit, brought up his curveball usage a tiny bit, cut down a bit on the sliders, but more or less the same selection. His velocity went down by a full mile per hour on the fastball. Did you know that? He went down by a full mile per hour on the fastball.
I didn't, but I could have. It doesn't surprise me.
That's a pretty striking change. Didn't seem to affect him, though. Didn't seem to affect success. So I don't want to attribute it to luck. I don't think you gained 50 points of ERA plus with luck. I don't think this was him being lucky. So something has evolved the way he pitches, and for that, I have to applaud him. I can't really blame this on anything arbitrary. This is just to his credit for doing a good job as a pitcher. It's really all it is.
And I hope this reflects on the AL top 10 pitchers next year, Holly.
We'll see.
Okay, and let me get
again, Brian.
Yeah, go ahead.
Brian Bayo has made a tremendous incursion to that list, so Cole might have to be pushed out.
Let me get your quick thought on Chris Martin getting a Cy Young vote, please. Thank you.
Chris Martin, the most slept-on reliever of this season, had a 1.05 ERA for my Red Sox this year. He really was the only redeeming fact of this season was watching Chris Martin pitch. He has a super fun pitch selection. He throws that hard sinker, a disgusting splitter, and a nice cutter as well. His splitter had one of the best run values against of any pitch in the majors this year. Also his cutter as well. He wasn't used that much. For some reason, Cora only put him in for 51 innings this year, although he wasn't hurt at all. Doesn't have much injury history. That was a bit baffling. Season could have probably gone differently if Cora had used him more, but he was cautious. I'm guessing he'll be the lead setup man next season.
He's a free agent though, right?
No, he's not.
Oh, he's not. Okay, never mind.
2024. I don't see him repeating last season's numbers again.
Obviously not. Yeah.
There was a difference of basically a full run and a half between his FIP and his ERA, between FIP and ERA, and that does not bode well for repeating that success. He also did give up pretty much 8 hits per 9 innings, so his talents were not walking anybody. This was a bit of a lucky year for Martin. This was a year of good luck, but he did exceptionally well. Credit where it's due. But I predict him to take a step back next season and probably not receive Cy Young votes like he did. But again, credit to my boy. I really thought, I genuinely think that if Felix Bautista had finished the year healthy and pitched in 70 games, he would have finished at least second in Cy Young and really challenged Cole because he was having a historic season as a closer. What do you think about that?
He got 3 fifth place votes. He did have a historic year, but I don't know. I really don't know much about what it takes for a reliever to get significant Cy Young votes.
Yeah, you do.
No, I really don't. What's like?
You've seen relievers win before. I can tell you. Well,
no, I know.
Go through every reliever who's won.
Go on.
I mean, let's look at every reliever who's won the award. So first, you had Mike Marshall in '74 with the Dodgers. He pitched like 106 innings. So with him, it was he was put out again and again and again. He pitched a ton of innings, got the award for that. Then you had your boy Sparky Lyle on the Yankees in '77. Again, another closer. He was rewarded basically for being an elite, untouchable closer the whole year.
Dennis Eckersley?
Raleigh Fingers.
Oh.
That's in the 90s. That's years later. Before that, we have Raleigh Fingers. Again, an elite closer, basically awarded for saves. The most arguably controversial example is Willie Hernandez in '84. And he was a guy who won both MVP and Cy Young with the Tigers in that World Series winning year. And a lot of people thought that was not a deserved MVP, that could have gone to a different player. But he was exceptional, pitched 140 innings entirely in relief, only had a 1.92 ERA. He was an indispensable part of that team. But if I was going to vote again, I would probably give it to Eddie Murray of the Orioles. But that's beside the point. Basically, what it takes for a reliever to win Cy Young is to rack up. Gagne in the 2003 just didn't give up any runs, basically. He was ridiculous that year. He earned it. Basically, what it ends up taking is either pitching a ton of innings out of the bullpen and doing so effectively, or racking up a ton of saves like Gagne did with 55 in 03. So it's going to be a lot of saves or a lot of innings is what's going to get you there as a reliever. And Bautista's going to have a ton of saves with a really low ERA. He just got hurt at the wrong time, and I think it's a tragedy.
Right. I think he would have been more in the conversation. Like if you look at 2016, Zach Britton, he had a .50 ERA and led the league in saves.
He did.
And I don't know what your standpoint or where you stand, if you think he should have won it or not in 2016.
You know exactly where I stand because you remember who did win in 2016.
I do, but I don't know your genuine feelings on this. I don't know your honest opinion on this.
What do you mean?
I don't believe you when you say. Anyway, Zach Britton didn't get it. I don't think Bautista's numbers this year were as good as Zach Britton's that year, or Gagne's 2003 when he won it, or the prior winners. Bautista was dominant, but if you look at his numbers, I don't know if he competes with Gerrit Cole's.
Regardless, this is all speculation because it didn't happen. He was injured. It's a tragic thing. Hope he comes back soon, better than ever. But that will wrap up our conversation on the Cy Young. Not much more to say about Snell. I think we both have probably the same take, although I did just find a very cool article called, maybe you saw this, The Absurdity and Brilliance of Snell's Cy Young Season. I'm going to link this in the description. It's a good read about how Snell put this together. We have one more award to discuss. It is the big one, the big whammy. We get 2 MVPs in baseball every year. The NFL and NBA get just one, which is why I love baseball. In the American League, we had a repeat winner, the free agent marvel himself, Shohei Ohtani. Two-way superstar, got it done on both sides of the ball the whole year. Only played in about 133 games, I think, but still worked his way to an MVP. And his second MVP. In the National League, we had Ronald Acuna Jr. beating out 2 Dodgers teammates for the award. Acuna is probably the most heavily favorited young player ever in terms of winning an MVP. I think he was probably the safest prediction when he came into the league that he would win MVP someday, except maybe Soto. And Soto still hasn't won one. So these are 2 guys who definitely deserved it. I really have no arguments with these selections. Ohtani racked up 10 wins. 10 wins out of the pitching and hitting roles. Acuna racked up 8.2. Do you have any points we could possibly disagree with these selections? It's tough to make an argument either way. These guys are tough to argue against.
Yeah, so during the season when this Acuna Betts thing was at its heights, I was on the Betts side of things, of the argument, because I really thought that Betts' ability to play shortstop and second base at a pretty good level on top of his right field elite defense, I thought that meant a lot in terms of MVP voting. I know Acuna's got the stolen bases. Mookie's got a little more power. I think it's a little closer than I thought. Obviously Acuna, I would vote for Acuna. Acuna deserved it. But Mookie Betts, I just want to shout him out because his season was absolutely unbelievable as well.
It was. And somehow Betts has been quietly an exceptional player in his time in LA. And I say quietly, partly because the baseball stories have shifted away from Betts to other players, Judges, Ohtani's of the world, and also because he's on a team full of superstars. He's got Freeman and company, not Turner anymore, but Freeman and company around him, which sometimes can shift the spotlight away from Mookie. But I know that in LA, I've been to LA, and I know that out there he is a superhero, and he still is one in Boston as well. Let's take a quick look at his season. Racked up a 163 OPS plus, second best of his career. That's incredible. Batted .307 with 39 bombs, a career high. Still got to 14 stolen bases. Walked 96 times, best walk total of his career. Racked up 40 doubles. I mean, look at this dude. 80 extra base hits for Betts here at age 30. He shows no signs of slowing down.
8.3 wins
Still
above
outstanding
replacement.
on defense. 8.3. I think defensively, it was not one of his strongest seasons, just looking at his defensive WAR here. And, give him some credit for slowing down a little bit as he hits his prime and ages.
He's also moving around.
Such a tremendous... He is moving around. You're right. He's not the biggest guy. He's 5'9", 180. He has a small body, but that does not negate his athleticism. His athleticism is still off the charts despite him being in a how do I say this nicely? More compact form.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it. He's a compact dude, but he's got a lot of strength in that little build.
Do you recall any player of Betts' stature that's moved positions from outfield to infield, especially second and short up the middle positions that are highly important to success in the major leagues?
Well, Pete Rose, but that wasn't second and short. That was obviously outfield to third base. That'd be the prime example. Pete Rose famously made that shift several times. Also, Carl Yastrzemski made the shift in the other direction from, well, he was first base, left field, then back to first base.
That happens,
So
yeah. But right
this
field,
happened.
second
The guys have done it
short,
in the past.
those are positions that usually you either give up immediately and then never come back to.
It is. But these guys are not little leaguers. These guys are exceptional athletes, and so while on paper it looks ridiculous that anyone could pull this off, Mookie Betts, I actually think it's very much in his wheelhouse to play these positions.
It is, I know.
They've been doing baseball for their entire lives. It's not that shocking. I can totally, like Dalton Varsho doing catching and outfield. People say, "Oh my gosh, it's surreal." Blah 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 blah. You're throwing, you're catching. The skill sets are different, but these guys can pull it off. Ohtani, different conversation. Different conversation.
Right. Okay. And then anything on Ohtani? Obviously, I just want to ask you, Ohtani, we're kind of, there's like Ohtani fatigue, that word going around, and people are getting used to the fact that someone is literally hitting in the middle of the order and pitching like an ace. And I think the appreciation is still there, but when it comes to MVP awards, what does he like? At what level does he not win an MVP if he's playing 130 games? Like, even if he goes out there and has a 4.5 ERA and hits 220, but with 30 home runs, like if someone other than Ohtani just came up and did that, that would be a player that's in conversations for MVP. But if Ohtani does that, who knows? Like, what level is? I don't know. Like, do you give him MVP every year if he plays 130 games?
Tough. Yeah, you almost want to bite that bullet and say he wins the MVP every season if he just qualifies for the batting title. I'm tempted to say that myself. It's one of these things that Ohtani is sort of like the moon landing or the atomic bomb. These things have happened that completely overwhelm human comprehension to the point where we can't even really talk about them anymore. We forget about them. Like if we sat here and just realized for a sec that human beings have walked on the moon before, we probably wouldn't be able to get up. We'd be so blown away. And that's the level that Ohtani's at. And that fact, unfortunately, is probably going to hurt his MVP chances in the future because people will forget just how impressive it is what he does. But I still believe he definitely has at least one more MVP in him, maybe two. I don't think he'll break Bonds' record and get to 7 or 8. He's got at least one more in him. And yeah, like you said, even if he just hits around 230, 240, but gets a lot of home runs and pitches at least league average level, he's still a candidate because nobody else can pull that off ever. Do you think that we will see more Ohtanis in the future? Is it possible we'll see another one in the next 20 years, or is he one of a kind forever?
Sorry. I cut out for a sec.
Okay. Did you hear my question?
But no, I did not hear your question. I heard parts of your answer.
I just asked whether you think in the next 20 years or even in the rest of time, we'll ever see another player like Ohtani. Is he replicable?
I don't think so. Not in our lifetime.
Not our lifetime. Not our lifetime. Wow.
Not at this level. I think someone might come up that does both and does it at a quality level. But a guy that is ace level pitcher and a middle of the order bat like he is unbelievable. I think the funniest thing would be if next year, American League players will be having a chance to win an MVP because Ohtani's not pitching, but it would be hilarious if Ohtani came out and hit 60 home runs and won MVP.
It would be nice, and that would not stretch belief for me either. I would.
Right. Like imagine if he's only focused on hitting. Let's see what he can do.
I know. Or maybe he'll take up something else and start playing third base and be a Gold Glove winner. Maybe he'll become the next manager. The Angels will be like, all right, you can just manage as well. He'll be a player manager, and just do it all.
Player manager, owner, hit 60 home runs.
He might just become president of the U.S. too. Why not? I would elect him. I don't care if he was born in Japan. You can elect him. I'll vote for him in 2024. Ohtani can figure it out. He is exceptional. I wish I get to meet him someday. I have a friend, of course. I told you about my friend who works at Fenway. He's met Ohtani and describes him as just being this incredibly warm presence, incredibly open and sincere guy. even with his limited English, just really generous and does not seem to have much ego or much arrogance in him. Just walks around doing his thing and is just really happy to be there. A special individual for sure.
Has your opinions changed on the Dodgers getting Ohtani since we last recorded an episode on the free agents?
No, not really. We got a lot of great comments on our last video, a lot of very thoughtful words from our fans about the Dodgers signing Ohtani, but I'm going to stick to my answer that I made. No one else, I think, has the facility to sign him. And it's
Yeah, go on.
It's such an appealing team for him. If you're Ohtani, do you not want to play with Betts and Freeman and the best players of your time and Kershaw beside you? Well, maybe not Kershaw, but play with the best athletes of your time beside you? I mean, hard to pass up.
There were reports today that the Dodgers are looking to trade for Mike Trout as well, on top of signing Ohtani and trying to pair them up in L.A. on the other side, or the real LA.
Oh my gosh. Dude, this is not fair.
The Dodgers are really serious about this and that they would have every prospect on the table for a trade to happen. What would you think about that? A Betts, Ohtani, Trout, Freeman lineup.
Oh my God, dude. Who would you pitch to? You couldn't even... I wouldn't even start my best pitchers against them. I would just say, fuck it, throw in some AAA guy and just accept defeat. I would just save my arms. I would just say, these 3 games against these guys, they're a loss. It's fine. I would just save my pitchers for the next game and just say, go to town, do your thing. At that point, it's not worth it, man. There'd be no outs.
They're seriously in on Yamamoto apparently, and other top free agent pitchers as well.
Dude. The funny thing is, a lot of these, but a lot of these juggernauts haven't worked out in the past. Padres juggernaut last season, total failure. The Phillies juggernaut didn't get to the World Series. They did well, good team, but didn't win the division either. Yankees juggernauts unfortunately have not worked out.
But picking up Xander Bogaerts, picking up Trey Turner, they're great players. But picking up Trout, Ohtani, and a top flight starting pitcher on top of Betts and Freeman.
Yeah. But
they still level
have
of juggernaut.
Yeah, but they have a lot of starting pitching problems still. The Dodgers have a lot of pitching problems, so they got to work those out too. They'll need at least a Montgomery or at least a Nola. God, even without thinking about a Yamamoto, who is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
We'll see what happens. I wonder how it feels to be a Dodger fan, man. You're literally in every single rumor for every top player.
Yeah. Dodgers fans are rabid. They are rabid. I saw them when they did their parade in Boston this summer. They are bloodthirsty. They will not take no for an answer.
Us Yankee fans and Boston fans, we're pretty lucky too. But
we are. Is JD going to be in the Dodgers next year again? Is JD coming back? He is, right? Yeah. No, he's
a free agent. We'll see.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
We'll see where he goes.
We did a whole video on him. Okay.
I sent to Seattle, so.
Seattle, you did. I don't remember where I sent him. So whoever it was, it's probably going to be wrong because I didn't research that video very much. But they still have Muncy, I believe. So the Muncy Freeman, Betts, Will Smith, James Outman.
So underrated.
Will Smith's so underrated. Serious guy. Damn. Badass player. So it's still looking at Betts, Outman, Muncy, Freeman, Smith. That's still a elite lineup. No worries for them.
So what's going on with Julio Urias? He was my number 1 pick for pitchers last year.
Yeah, he was. That does not.
I wanted to never bring that up again, but
that does not look good on so many levels now. That is a difficult thing. Well,
he was supposed to be the top free agent this year. After Ohtani.
It's tough to see him. Tough to see him pitching.
Is he ever coming back?
It's tough for me to picture. There are a couple
guys. What about Wander Franco? How's he doing?
I was just gonna say, definitely not gonna see Franco again in MLB uniform. I think that ship has sailed. Urias, I'm guessing, has sailed as well, along with Trevor Bauer. The league probably doesn't need these guys for its image. I think we can do pretty well without them from a moral standpoint.
Your voice changed. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's because I'm trying to figure out how to talk about this with not what I want to say is they should never be back in MLB uniform ever. I have no business playing in front of kids or in front of people. But front office executives don't think the way I do necessarily. So, who's to say they'll agree with my opinion? They don't have to.
Yeah.
Lance Lynn's still there as well. Lance Lynn. Love Lance Lynn.
He would look so good in a Boston. He's such a Bostonian.
He is a Bostonian. He is. If only he could not give up runs for a little while, would be great. But yes, he was a Bostonian. Bobby Miller's still in the Dodgers. He's still going. I like Bobby Miller. He's good, right?
There's some young pitchers. I think.
Yeah.
Bueller's supposed to be back next year.
Yency Almonte. Alex
count him out.
Vesia. Caleb. They got so many.
My son.
Phil Bickford.
Ferguson?
I love Dodgers pitching so much because just these 40 new random names every year. They got Ryan Brazier this year. He was great. Damn, dude, that's devastating. Justin Bruihl, Nick Robertson. Anyway, this is all totally off topic. What we've done today is recap the awards winners for you. We've given our opinions on them. We'd love to hear what you guys think about them. And again, we'd love to hear more of your thoughts on free agency and on the outlook for next season because we care about your opinions. We're just a couple of guys. We don't know everything. We just know what we know. And Ken is smarter than me. And that's the story of the day.
Before we leave, I'm going to give Ollie one trivia question to end the show. It's pretty easy. Ollie should get it within 5 seconds. Who is the biggest free agent signing the Rays have ever signed?
Oh, yeah. It was, I think it was Austin Meadows just last year, right? Didn't they give him a big ass deal?
Wrong. Well,
No. No. I'm sorry. No. I'm sorry. That's not what I meant to say. The biggest one they got was Zach Eflin last year. I was thinking about it. Zach Eflin last year was the biggest one. I mixed those two guys up in my mind because I was thinking of Meadows the year before. But sorry, he went to the Tigers because he went from Rays to the Tigers. Zach Eflin is the guy I'm thinking of. He got signed for, I believe, 4 years, 85. I think it was the biggest one ever, right?
It might have been a little less than that, but yeah.
It was Zach Eflin.
Like that.
And then I'm going to ask you one, too, while you're here. My trivia question for Ken, I'm just going to make this up on the top of my head, something I would know. Who was name the 5 primary pitchers of the Detroit Tigers 2013 rotation?
Anibal Sanchez, Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander. Who was out there? Zimmerman still out there?
No.
Zimmerman not out there.
No.
Okay. Scherzer, Verlander, Sanchez. 2013. I should know this.
You should.
Valverde's in the bullpen. I should know this because the Yankees faced him in the playoffs. Although we did get swept. Phil Koch is in the bullpen. You know those guys. Well, who? Give me a hint. I should know these guys.
We almost talked about one of these guys today earlier in our Cy Young conversation.
Oh, yes. Oh my! Is Doug Fister out there too?
Yes, he is.
Doug Fister's out there too, and then Rick Porcello.
Very good. Way to go. He got all 5. Well done, Ken. We are just too good at this game. We can't stop each other. We got to Doug Fister. Let's pour one out for Doug Fister. Everybody watching, let's take a shot for Fister. I don't know what he's doing now, but great athlete, great man. Okay. All right. Okay, man. That's great. Thank you all so much for watching. Appreciate you. Signing off. Bleacher Boys out.